Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine-chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forests to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hello, everyone. I just want to preface this and say that I actually lost my voice a couple weeks ago, and so my voice might sound kind of scratchy. I'm still working on getting it back to its normal. And also, since we've moved into our new house, I'm in my new office, and my voice might sound a little echoey because I don't have a lot of furniture in my office yet or any kind of soundproofing. So I do apologize if you hear a bit of an echo. So I actually got a really, really bad sinus infection. Like I said, I lost my voice. I was so tired. I wasn't able to go out into the outdoors and enjoy because I was so sick. But I'm feeling better now, and I'm actually looking forward to skiing this season. So it's snowing in Salt Lake. It's snowing in the mountains surrounding. It's beautiful. It's this kind of like in between seasons, and it came really fast, but I'm enjoying seeing the snow-covered mountains when I go for walks in the afternoons. I do want to address something that I find is kind of funny, but also kind of goes with the theme of my show. Oh, by the way, my name is Elise, and I am your host. And, I really appreciate good reviews of my show. This is not my full-time job. This is a hobby/passion project. And I actually had a negative rating of my own show. And Nick at Night said, very much feels like a one-for-one copy of Locations Unknown podcast, even doing cases already covered by them. So Nick at Night, this is not Locations Unknown. I am not trying to do that here. And I actually really love the Locations Unknown podcast, but that's not what this is. And just because both of us share facts about national parks doesn't mean that I'm a carbon copy of them. And in fact, you're saying carbon copy, that means you don't even know what carbon copy is. So anyways, just wanted to, I read negative reviews about the national parks. I wanted to read this negative review about Morbid Outdoors because it's a little comical to me. Anyone can read facts about national parks off of the website and Wikipedia. That's what I do. That's what they do. But yes, I've covered one or two of the same cases. But Morbid Outdoors isn't supposed to be like Locations Unknown, and we're not actually trying to do the same thing that they are. Actually, we're doing something different. And if you would listen, you would actually know. So Nick at Night, I'm sorry you feel like I'm copying Locations Unknown, but that's not what's happening here. And facts are facts are facts. And so the facts about the national parks don't change. And if that's what's making you feel like it's a carbon copy, you have very poor comparing and contrasting skills. But if you actually like my content and want to support me, the best way to do that is to leave a 5-star review. You don't even have to type a comment, but I love reading the comments. So if you listen on YouTube, I'd appreciate you rating me on Apple or Spotify, 5 stars. Nick at Night didn't rate me 5 stars, but he doesn't know how to follow directions either. And if you listen to Locations Unknown, you'll know that our shows are very different. I'm not trying to do what Mike and Joe do at Locations Unknown. This is my own thing, and I appreciate good reviews and reviews that make sense. But saying I'm a carbon copy of a totally different podcast with a different mission is it's kind of silly. So anyways, just wanted to address that, but yeah, so I guess that's it for me. I'm just still working on moving in, hopefully going to soundproof this room so it's not as echoey. I do really apologize that there might be an echo. I'm hoping there's not. I've got like pillows stacked everywhere. But it's, new house, no furniture. I just have my desk and my microphone. So anyways, I hope you guys are all having a wonderful Wednesday. Again, I'm still trying to find my voice with this podcast in terms of what I want it to be, what I want it to sound like, the transitions. So just know that I'm going to be playing around with the, I can't even remember the word because I'm blanking, but I'm going to be messing around with the format. That's the word, the format. So anyways, I do apologize. My voice is kind of scratchy. I'm still recovering and getting my entire voice back. But hopefully that's not bothersome for just this one episode. Let's head out to the morbid outdoors. When a hiker's remains are found in a shallow grave along the Appalachian Trail, an investigation immediately begins. Despite the FBI getting involved, a reward, and more than 80 interviews of other hikers, his murder went unsolved. 8 years later, another hiker vanished from just a couple of miles from where the previous body was found. He was missing for a year before his remains were found. Who murdered both of these men? Is geography the only connecting factor in their cases, or could something more sinister be going on in this area? Okay, so now negative reviews about the Appalachian Trail. So Cohen said, and this is in all caps, "There are feral people in Appalachia. Be careful." Someone else said, "Slept along the trail one night only to wake up in the middle of the night to some dark figure standing over me. I bolted the F out of there, but the sicko managed to track me 100 miles over 7 days. Long story short, I got out, but I ain't going there again." Zachary said, "This trail is too long. From Maine to Georgia, it's too long. I would never, ever, ever hike that trail," with like 7 exclamation marks. Someone else said, "Danger, danger, Wendigos on the trail." So very interesting negative reviews about this trail in this area, especially if you know about cryptids and you kind of follow the weird stuff that goes on in Appalachia. It is very interesting to say the least. And it is not somewhere that I would want to hike like at night or early morning alone. I'm sure that you guys are all very familiar with the Appalachian Trail. It's also called the AT, and it's a hiking trail in the eastern United States, and it's like 2,200 miles long. It goes between Springer Mountain in Georgia and Mount Katahdin. I'm like, cannot talk today. That's in Maine, and it passes through 14 states. Super, super cool. And the Appalachian Trail Conservancy claims that the AT is the world's longest hiking only trail. So the PCT, or the Pacific Crest Trail, is actually longer than the Appalachian Trail, but you can bring horses on that one. So the Appalachian Trail, it's like the longest hiking only. The Continental Divide Trail is also longer than the PCT at 3,100 miles. And basically, if you hike all three, the Continental Divide Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Appalachian Trail, it's like an informal, like triple crown of hiking. And some people actually do set out to do that. And it's super cool. Actually, when we were in Canada last month, we actually ran into some hitchhikers that had just completed the Continental Divide Trail. Super cool. I love chatting with them. It's always fun to meet through hikers while you're traveling. So from south to north, the AT passes through Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, they estimate that there are over 3,000 attempts a year at the whole trail, and only about 25 of those people succeed with that. Now, the Appalachian Trail is home to thousands of species of plants and animals, including 2,000 rare, threatened, endangered, and sensitive plant and animal species. The black bear is found, and it's the largest animal that is found along this trail, but they rarely confront people. Other hazards of this trail are venomous snakes, including the eastern timber rattlesnake and the copperhead. There's also deer, elk, and moose, and small mammal species like beaver, squirrel, otter, chipmunk, bobcat, fox, raccoon, and coyote. There are lots of birds, including wild turkeys, ruffed grouse, mourning doves, ravens, eagles, wood ducks, owls, and hawks. Very, very abundant with wildlife. I'm sure it's beautiful. I have never hiked any part of the AT, although it is on my list. Now, for most hikers, the most persistent pests are actually ticks, mosquitoes, and black flies. There are shelters along the trail that people sleep in, and those can have mice in them that will, maybe eat through your pack if you don't have your stuff secured in the right way. And a lot of the trail is actually below 3,000 feet, which is why there's a lot of animals and all of these like nasty bugs. Where I'm from in Arkansas, it's lots of ticks. I hate ticks, and I'm so glad I don't have to deal with those much anymore now that I live in Utah. But definitely ticks are a hazard on the AT. The blazes that mark the AT are white, and they are 2 by 6 inches. So when you're on the AT and you see a white blaze, you know that you are going the correct way. Now, side trails to shelters, there's viewpoints and parking areas. You can hike like any part of this trail. So you don't it's not like, oh, you have to do the whole trail. If you're unfamiliar with through hiking is starting at one point and hiking all the way to the end. There's no loop. You are through hiking this. You usually have a backpack with everything you need to live on the trail. And, but you can still do smaller hikes on the AT, like day hikes. And a lot of people do that. In past years, some sections of the trail used metal diamond markers with the AT logo, and actually those have kind of been either they've fallen off or people steal them, which kind of sucks because they're very pretty. But people have been taking those off of the trees, and so that's why it is now a white paint blaze. Now, because this trail is so long and it goes through a lot of small towns and cities, violent crime does happen. It's rare, but it has occurred in a few instances. The first reported homicide on the trail was in 1974 in Georgia. And in 1981, there was some violence that received national attention when Robert Mountford Jr. and Lara Susan Ramsey, both social workers from Maine, they were actually both murdered by someone named Randall Lee Smith. There was another homicide that occurred in 1996. I'm sure that everyone knows about that homicide. Those were the 2 girls. Their homicide was just solved finally. But that actually happened near the trail in Shenandoah National Park. So they weren't through hikers. They were just spending some time in Shenandoah National Park. Lots of creepy, weird things. If you've heard of the Blue Ridge Parkway murders, those are also kind of near this area. And actually in May 2019, there was a man from Oklahoma. His name was Ronald Sanchez Jr. He's 43. He was murdered at a campsite near Mount Rogers National Recreation Area in Western Virginia, Jefferson National Forest. So Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on over here, and I think the negative reviews kind of maybe put into perspective some theories that a lot of people have about this area. Now, this source was Wikipedia, which isn't the most awesome or reliable source, but I actually find it interesting that some of the murders off of, this trail were reported on there, but not all. So, there are a lot more murders that have been committed on the AT over, since things started being recorded. One of the many shelters on this, like the shelter camps on the AT, is the Cow Camp Gap Shelter. And this is actually in the Mount Pleasant Special Management Area in the George Washington National Forest, which is in Amherst County, Virginia. Now, the Mount Pleasant Special Management Area is north of Route 60 and east of the Blue Ridge Parkway, just to give you a little bit of idea of location. And on Friday, August 12th, 2011, a group of hikers came across a body. And this body was apparently lying in a shallow grave along a side trail to the Cow Camp Gap Shelter. The body was later identified as Appalachian Trail hiker Scott Lilly, who was 30, of South Bend, Indiana, and his trail name was Stonewall. According to his obituary, Scott was born on May 10th, 1981, in Indiana. Scott had one brother and one sister, and he was about 5 foot 8 inches tall. He decided to section hike the AT, which is where you complete the hike in sections. So you're not through hiking it, but you're through hiking in smaller sections. And he actually decided this while visiting some Civil War battlefields. According to a February 2012 WSET TV interview with Scott's sister, Scott was a Civil War buff, and his interest was like in American history. And this is what drew him to the trail in Virginia. And he went by the trail name Stonewall, most likely as a reference to Thomas Stonewall Jackson, who was a commander in the Confederate Army in the Civil War. Now, Stonewall Jackson died as a result of friendly fire in 1863 across the border in Clarksburg, West Virginia. So Scott embarked on this Appalachian journey as a path to self-discovery and finding himself, as well as visiting the Civil War battlefields. Now, if you've ever read or seen the movie Lost, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. I cannot remember. I read it, but now I can't remember what it's called. But the movie has Reese Witherspoon, and it's a different trail. She did the PCT, but a lot of people will do the AT for the same reasons, like Scott was doing. He's going to kind of have this time to himself, have some self-discovery and reflection. And he was not an experienced hiker, but he decided to go backpacking in an attempt to work through some more personal issues and enjoy the history he was going to learn about on his way. Scott was hiking southbound from Maryland to Springer Mountain, Georgia, and he set out June 15th, 2011. And the last time anyone saw him or heard from him was around the end of July when he climbed the Priest, which is a 4,063-foot mountain located about 20 miles north of Buena Vista, Virginia. And after an autopsy was done, it was known that Scott was likely dead for around 12 days before those hikers discovered his body. It took a few months for the medical examiner to release a cause of death. According to the Times, Scott died as a result of asphyxia by suffocation, and the authorities declared it a homicide. His blue or purple backpack, trail shoes, Nintendo game, and an AT handbook were taken by whoever killed him. However, it was never stated by investigators whether they believed that robbery was the motive for the attack. So they do know it was homicide, but they're not sure what the motive was because some of his personal items were taken off of him, but we're not really sure what the motive was. U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Virginia, Tim J. Heafy, said it was unlikely that the death was connected to several unsolved deaths in the George Washington National Forest. So lots of unsolved deaths in this area. And, this DA is saying, no, it's not connected, although I don't know about that. So I just know that there are lots of unsolved murders along the Blue Ridge Parkway, and it's not really known, except, recently they've arrested someone, but that's not like a slam dunk. Like, we know exactly, that this person did these things. So I'm not really sure how accurate this statement is for this person to be making that, oh no, they're not connected at all, because we really don't know. Because the crime had been committed on federal land, the Federal Bureau of Investigation actually took control of the investigation. And FBI Special Agent Steve Duenas was the lead investigator in Scott's case. So Scott's case kind of went cold from the start. And in 2012, the FBI actually offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Scott's killer. Now, the combined investigative team, including the National Park Service, AT Rangers, U.S. Forest Service law enforcement officers, the Virginia State Police, and the FBI, they actually conducted 83 interviews of hikers, maintainers, and others. And these people were actually located in different states and other countries. These investigators were working hard to solve Scott's murder. And they tried to interview every single person that was on the trail at that time. FBI Special Agent Duenas and Mike Morehart conducted thorough investigations, and they actually collected more than 100 items of evidence and covered more than 270 miles of trails, which that is commitment for this. And in this case, that's what you have to do, because you have people back and forth on the trail for days and days and days and weeks. And it seems like this investigation from the start was handled very, very well. Now, during a few interviews, Special Agent Duenas declined to provide more specifics about the coroner's report because he wanted to preserve the integrity of the investigation. And he actually went on record to state, quote, "I have no reason to believe the trail is any more dangerous. Hikers have to be aware and take all the normal precautions," end quote. And if you ask me, solo hikers actually need to take more precautions than just a normal day hike. Solo hikers anywhere, but specifically if you are living on the trail and through hiking, you could be a victim of a crime. And I always carry something. And so I think everyone should actually do that just for protection. Despite the extensive investigation by the FBI and all of those investigative agencies, there has been no evidence to solve the crime, and no one's ever been arrested for Scott Lilly's murder. One theory was that Scott had been attacked by hill people or hillbillies, but Cow Camp Gap is not isolated, and it's actually a highly used recreational area. It's miles to the nearest human habitation, and one common characteristic of hillbillies is that they're not big walkers, and this is coming from an article I found. So, the only time you'll see them, it says, is in remote areas, as if it's accessible by ATV, which Cow Camp Gap isn't. So basically, this author was saying, yes, this is a theory that he was attacked by hill people, but if it's not super isolated, they probably wouldn't be there. This area is also an extremely popular loop trail for day hikes and overnight camping, and it's not really the place where you might stumble upon an illegal grow operation, because that was another theory. Now, on Reddit, I found someone that actually said, "I can attest to the fact that there's some real sketchy shit that goes down on the AT, especially through that part of Virginia. There's usually about 3 to 4 murders each decade in just that section alone. I think a lot of it comes from the fact that a lot of people go to the AT to get away from life, and that causes a lot of unstable people to go out there. There was a murder last year, just one town over from mine, end quote. So, this is from Reddit. That's also not a great source, but this is someone's personal anecdote about this area, and they're stating that murder in this area is actually pretty common. And so that's kind of their theory. Now, I did want to mention Gary Hilton, and you're probably familiar with him, but he was a U.S. serial killer who killed several people on the Appalachian Trail between 2006 and 2008. There are several bizarre missing persons cases from the Great Smoky Mountains, and Scott Lilly and Chad Austin, which is our next case we're going to talk about, are two of those cases that have never been solved. The case has basically gone cold, and Scott's family is still waiting for answers as to who murdered their son and brother and why. There haven't been any recent updates, but his case is still open. So if you know anything about the murder of Scott Stonewall Lilly, you're urged to contact the FBI at 1-800-225-5324 or 1-800-CALL-FBI and choose option 4. The second case we're going to discuss today is a case from 2019 when on May 27th, another 31-year-old male named Chad vanished near Panther Falls just east of the Blue Ridge Parkway. He vanished just miles from where Scott was found murdered. So this was 8 years later, and Chad was last seen at a campsite on Monday night. Someone found his abandoned vehicle on Panther Falls Road, May 28th at 12:38 with his dog inside. And that's coming directly from the sheriff's office. Animal control and deputies were able to respond and get the dog out, and the dog was unharmed. And family members said, quote, "He loved that dog, and I don't think he went anywhere without him," end quote. So it was very unusual for someone to find an abandoned vehicle with Chad's dog inside of it because his dog was a family member, and Chad would have never just abandoned his dog in his car. Now, his car was found, it was out of gas, and it was less than a mile away on a gravel dirt road. The dog's name was Gunner, and Gunner was the only item or thing in the vehicle, and Chad was nowhere to be found. Now, Panther Falls is an extremely popular local swimming hole and waterfall on the Peddler River east of the Blue Ridge Parkway. And on summer days, the falls are packed with people jumping from the top of the rocks and jumping in. And so I did this in college, not at Panther Falls, but at a local swimming hole. I love it, but it also is kind of dangerous depending on what you're jumping down into. Now, the hike to the falls is only 0.4 miles, and it offers visitors a choice of a low or a high road once reaching the falls. It can be pretty treacherous because the trail can be muddy and you have to cross several streams, but it's a very popular area. There's lots of people there, lots of families, and it was very strange that someone went missing from this area and was not seen. Authorities contacted Chad's family, and they decided at the time not to pursue a missing persons report because they weren't that concerned at first. But the Buena Vista Police Department entered the report on May 29th because they felt that they needed to do that. Now, searching started, and during the search on that Thursday, the sheriff's office said that they found a set of Chad's keys on the road not far from his car. The key to the vehicle was not located. They used bloodhounds in the search, and the search didn't show up much at all and went cold. Then in December of 2019, his wallet was found in the Panther Falls area. Chad's wallet was found actually by a father and daughter when they were out on their hike, and the Buena Vista Police Department, they knew that it was Chad's wallet because it had his ID inside. And police say that the condition of the wallet actually suggests that it was placed there recently. Basically, it should have shown signs of being weathered, but it didn't. So someone actually placed his wallet there pretty recently to when it was found. After his wallet was found, they of course did more searching, but nothing turned up. And in March of 2020, a tip was submitted and it led to another search in the Panther Falls area. And this tip led to a grisly discovery. Skeletal remains were found during the search. Chad was finally found. Police said that in addition to finding Chad's remains, forensic investigators collected property and evidence that is currently undergoing testing at the Virginia Department of Forensic Science. So they didn't really say what was found besides Chad's remains. What's weird is that the items that they found in the initial searches were about half a mile from his car, which is about where his remains were found as well. And I'm very shocked that with bloodhounds and lots of people searching, just a half mile away, that his remains were not found. So it leads me to wonder if someone possibly concealed his body and then maybe put it back in that area. I'm just not sure. Virginia State Police Special Agent Zirkle said, quote, "We are confident that there are persons in the community with relevant information that could help bring this case to a logical conclusion. We want to assure local residents that the multi-agency investigative team actively pursuing this case will continue to conduct additional interviews and forensic examinations. A number of people have already come forward, and we are grateful for their trust. But those who have been reluctant are still encouraged to call the Virginia State Police," end quote. So it sounds like there are some people that were nervous or scared to come forward with information that they might have about this, probable murder. And it sounds like more than one person might be responsible for Chad's death. The latest thing that I found was in October of 2020, someone released information about the things that were found during that last search that led them to Chad's body. And that would be 2 knives belonging to Chad were found in that area. Both of these knives were in the open position, and there were signs of a struggle and text on his phone anticipating confrontation. So that leads me to believe that Chad knew the people or person that murdered him. And police say that one person committed the murder, but others witnessed it. And that's the last thing that I could find about Chad's case. Basically, these knives are being forensically tested, and that's pretty much where this case is at. There haven't been any updates since October 2020, and I'm not sure if police have more information, but they're keeping it close to the chest so that nothing gets in the way of a possible conviction. But both of these murders are unsolved and have been since day one. And so it brings me back to the reviews. You hear people talk about, oh, Appalachia, and there's hill people and blah, blah, blah. Well, this is possible. And actually, there was another case, and I want to say it was out west, where a woman was taken and abducted by hill people that were survivalists living out in the woods, off the grid. And people actually do this. They're very few in small groups, but this is possible. It's possible. I don't think that, these people are responsible for Chad's death, just knowing that they found text on his phone. But it brings me back to Scott's case. Who killed Scott and why? Why would you kill someone that was enjoying the outdoors and you probably spoke with? It's so crazy to me. So I'm not sure if geography is the only thing that connects these cases. I don't know if we'll ever know the answers to that, but hopefully With renewed interest in both of these cases, sometimes it takes a while for people to come around and tell authorities what they saw. So if you have information about Chad Austin, you're encouraged to call the Virginia State Police at 540-375-9589 or by email, and that email will be in the show notes. Well, that's all for today. If you've ever heard of these cases, you'll know that there's not a lot of information online and they're both pretty cold, especially Scott's case. I'm really hoping that they're able to find who Scott's killer was because his family and Chad's family are still waiting for answers. Recreate responsibly, and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always that great. Stay safe out there. Thanks for listening today, guys. And just a reminder, thank you so much for your listening and your support and all of my YouTube people. I think I have more subscribers on YouTube than like any of the podcast things. I would love to do like a video component one day, but because this is just my side hobby, I don't have the capacity to do video, but that is in the plans. So if you're on YouTube, just know I love you. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of my listeners. And thanks so much for tuning in to Morbid Outdoors. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.